morning, students. Today we are going to see the second subtopic of Unit 1, the Earth Climate Mission and Classification. So, in the last few classes, we have discussed about the syllabus as well as the first subtopic of the Unit 1 for the subject Global Climate Change. So coming to the second subtopic, okay, the climate refers to the long-term average of weather patterns over a significant period, typically 30 years or more. So in the last class I told you what is the difference between the climate and weather. Okay, the weather is a present currently how the climate is. Okay, so the climate will be understanding can be understand by knowing the 3 decades or 4 decades the weather pattern. Okay, so the climate, that's the difference between the climate and the weather. Unlike weather which changes daily or hourly, climate is stable over decades. So underline the word climate is stable over decades. It includes elements like temperature, humidity, rainfall, wind pattern and atmospheric pressure. Understanding the climate is essential to predict the long-term weather behavior and its influence on human activities and the ecosystem. So I already told you. For example, the farmer want to cultivate a particular crop. Okay. So if we understand the weather, I mean the climate, okay, then it will be easy. If the weather changes, obviously the people may get affected. For example, during summer, if it rains, just imagine. Okay, so we could not able to predict the condition, the weather condition. Understanding climate is essential to predict long-term weather behavior and its influence on human activities and ecosystems. Okay, coming to the solar energy, the primary driver for the climate change. The sun emits energy across electromagnetic spectrum, but most importantly as visible light and infrared radiation. This energy is absorbed by the Earth's surface and atmosphere. So the sunlight which is coming from the sun will reach almost 8 minutes to reach the Earth's surface. Here 75% of the solar radiation is reaching Earth is absorbed by the land and water. So we know already 3/4 of the Earth is occupied by the ocean that is our water. Okay, and another remaining 1/3 of the part is covered by the land. Okay, so 75% of the solar radiation reaching Earth is absorbed by the land and water. Okay, driving process such as evaporation, photosynthesis, and heat distribution. So here, during when the heat comes from the sunlight is getting absorbed by the land and air, it will the water will evaporate from the ocean. Okay, and the photosynthesis okay may occur and heat distribution occurs. So the driving process such as okay evaporation, photosynthesis, and heat distribution. Without solar radiation, life and climate system on Earth would not exist. As we know already, if there is no solar, I mean no light, so there won't be any life exist here. Some like that, something like the planet like Mars, Venus. If you see the climate over there, it will be very cold. Okay. Okay, so I mean the planet which are very far will be light radiation will be very less. Obviously, similarly, the climate will be freeze climate. Okay, that is minus degree Celsius. Okay, so without solar radiation, life and please go and check actually the each planet what is the climate. Okay, whether when it is very near to the sun or away from the sun, the climate. I mean the weather, the temperature of the planet is how it varying. Okay, so without solar radiation, life and climate systems on Earth would not exist. It is a starting point of all energy transformation in the climate system. Okay, so the solar radiation play a very important role. For example, if there is no moon, what will happen on the planet Earth? Okay, if there is no sun, what will happen? There won't be any life exist. Similarly, think of okay, so if there is what will happen or now how we are depending on the solar systems, okay, or how we are depending on the universe. Okay, that we need to think of. Okay, so the Earth climate machine, Earth climate system includes 4 key subsystems. One is atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. Atmosphere means gases surrounding the planet. Okay, so Mars and all, the carbon dioxide is surrounded. You just see the Saturn. What are the gases which are being surrounded by Saturn planet? Okay, hydrosphere, all water bodies. Lithosphere, earth crust and land. biosphere, all living organisms. Earth climate system includes four key subsystems, that is atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. This interact to regulate energy flow and moisture, maintaining a stable environment. Think of it as an engine where each part influences the others, constantly adjusting and responding to internal and external forces. So let's say when a car need to move, okay, so the car you are want to drive a car, okay, the engine part is very important, right? If any part of the engine is not is malfunctioning, what will happen? The car will not move. Okay, similarly this thing they are correlating it. Okay, this interact to regulate the energy flow and moisture, maintaining a stable environment. Okay, thinking of an engine where each part influences to others, constantly adjusting and responding to internal and external forces. Okay, so this one or two other way it is related. That's what they are trying to say. Terrestrial radiation and greenhouse effect. So in the last class also we have seen what is the effect of greenhouse gases, especially the nitrous oxide and methane, which is more toxic than the, which has more profound negative effect when compared to the carbon dioxide. Okay, so 200 times or 100 times is a more shows the negative effect when compared to the carbon dioxide, especially the methane and nitrous oxide that we have seen in the last class. Okay, so many countries are not signing the Montreal Protocol or Kyoto Protocol. Okay, to safeguard the environment. Okay, so what are they? Why they are doing like that? That we need to think of. Okay, what is their advantage? Why they are not coming to a treaty, especially a common treaty? Okay, US is not coming in what treaty, not working with not agreeing with the what type of treaty. That only you need to understand the things. Okay, so because every nation will work it out on their own benefit. Okay, recently there is a conflict. US president says he want to put a tariff of 25%, and now it has been increased to 50%. Okay, because but the Indian government, what they said actually, we want to see the safeguard of the benefits of the farmers of India. So we don't want to genetically modified foods or vegetables are not being allowed inside the country. So why? It's all depend on the nation's safety and as well as production or economic benefit and things like that. Okay, so why I'm trying to say this, all countries they have their own stance. Okay, in coming to have a to give a sustainable environment. So we need to combine. That's why the United Nations will come and sit on a common ground and will work it out to reduce the carbon footprint. And most countries like India and China, they are obliged to reduce the carbon footprint because of the uh, industrialization which happened in the last century. Okay, so these are the things you need to understand. Okay, the greenhouse effect is natural and necessary, but human activities have intensified it, leading to climate change. Okay, the greenhouse effect, even if there is no industrialization, do you think actually there won't be any greenhouse effect? Definitely there will be greenhouse effect because of the vegetation and ecosystem itself will produce the greenhouse effect. But at the same time, it will regain back to the original system, condition. Okay, there won't be any effect on the increase in climate or any effect on the environmental condition like climate change and things like that. Okay, but as I told you in the last class, if the water is has the tendency to regenerate its own characteristics when it flows downstream for 2 or 3 kilometers. But if the concentration is very high, that will not regain back to its original position. Like what happened to the Coom River. Okay, so in the Coom River, the people have been dumping a drainage, I mean the drainage water into the Coom River. Obviously, the river could not able to regain back. Okay, its original condition, so it becomes spoiled and become a blackish water. Okay, so these are the ways you need to think of. Okay, so the sustainability is very very important. Why we are seeing studying the global climate change? It is a caution. Okay, because if you leave it as such without taking care of the environment, obviously that will make the earth is not suitable for the human beings. Not only for the human beings, even for the any living beings which has been living in the this particular planet Earth. Okay. Yeah, so hope you understood what I'm trying to say. Heat transfer in climate system, how the heat has been transferred. Heat moves from the Arctic to colder regions. So you might have studied actually the heat transfer. The heat will be transferred from a higher temperature to a lower temperature. That's what they mean here. Okay, outer to colder region, balancing the earth temperature. This occurs via sensible heat and latent heat. Again, is a chemical engineering principle, right? What is sensible heat? Let's say you take a beaker and heat the water inside the beaker. the temperature, if you just keep the thermometer inside the beaker, and the temperature will rise. After some time, when it very close to 100 degrees Celsius, there will be a phase change. Even if you supply the heat energy, that heat energy will be helpful to move the, transfer the, for the phase transition. That means water will get evaporated, vaporized. Okay, so the latent heat released when vapor condenses into the clouds. So sensibly heat carried by the moving air and the water. Okay, so because of that, heat transfer takes place. Okay, this drives winds, ocean current, and weather system. We will elaborately see what is ocean current shortly. Okay, so we understood. So the transfer of heat always will take place. Okay, because of the sun, because the sun at the equator will be warmer, whereas the cold region we don't have much radiation from the sunlight will fall on that. That's why it become very cold. Okay, so obviously because of the temperature difference between the polar region and the equator, there will be a transfer of heat between the two phases. Okay, because of the wind. Okay, that will drive this drives winds, ocean current, and weather system. That means temperature. Temperature is the important parameter need to be considered. So the hydrological cycle includes evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Okay, from how the rain falls, the water which is getting heated up from the ocean will go at the top, and it will condense and form your clouds. Okay, and then from there, once it gets chilled up, and it will get precipitated, that will rainfall. Okay, infiltration and then runoff. Infiltration in the sense groundwater well. Okay, so in the last government in Tamil Nadu, they have make it compulsory for every houses need to have a rainwater harvesting. Okay, so because why they say, because the groundwater will get increased. So now even in here Sriperumbudur, they it went until 100 meters, or 50 meters, or more than 100 meters. Okay, more than 100 meters depth only you will get a water, because the water will getting ready, because the consumption of water is more. Okay, the people have population is very high in Chennai city, so that's why the people try to take a water from different sources, not only from the river. Okay, Pulalieri or lake, that is a okay. Pullel Lake, or not, or else they will take the water from the river like Kaveri or Veeranam, from different places, okay, of Tamil Nadu. Veeranam has been taken to the Kannur district. Okay, so just think of, if you don't, we need to, because human always we need a water, right? So even though the earth has been occupied by two-thirds of the earth has been occupied by water, is not suitable for drinking purpose or even used for some other purpose. Okay, because it is a salt, 33% is salt present in the sea water. So we need to depend on the small, fresh water, which is very less in amount. Okay, that you need to understand. But obviously, by using a filtration technique like membrane, you can desalinate the water and you can use it. Most countries they are trying to treat the wastewater, and then they try to get it. Okay, so why I'm trying to say all this is hydrological cycle is a very important parameter. Okay, includes evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, and runoff. Connects atmosphere, land, and oceans. Affects climate, agriculture, freshwater availability, and storm formation. What is both a driver? Okay, both a driver and a product of climate process, constantly cycling through states and locations. So, the coming to the carbon cycle. Describe how carbon moves through the biosphere, atmosphere, ozones, and the earth crust. So the atmosphere has been classified into troposphere, stratosphere, okay, and different layers that you might have studied in your school days. So describe how the carbon moves through the biosphere, atmosphere, oceans, and earth crust. Okay, this need to understand. This is one of the responsible for the increase in temperature. Okay, global climate change. Plant absorb the carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, and animals and their decomposition, and animals and their decomposition return carbon dioxide to the air. Okay, so the carbon footprint is natural. These animals live, and then it will decompose and return carbon dioxide to thing. It can be regenerated, because the earth in such a way that, okay, the God created the earth. I can say the God created the earth. Okay, it will replenish. That means regenerate its own position. But because of the human activity, sometimes what will happen is it could not able to recover the things. Okay, recover back to the original position. That's why the people have been talking about the sustainability. You need to understand this particular concept very clearly. And the fossil fuel burning and deforestation disrupt this balance. Okay, so the fossil fuel burning, like how much amount of oil which we are using it for transportation. We are buying crude oil from the Russia, and the US has putting a tariff because of the we are buying crude oil from Russia, especially at a lower cost and at the lower cost. And they are saying Russia is having an economy because of that good economy, because of that they are having a war with the Ukraine for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Okay, but it's not, it's a global politics. Okay, forget about it. But only the thing is that what I'm trying to say here is that the fossil fuel burning is very important, which contributes a more higher carbon footprint. Okay, and deforestation. Okay, last class I told you regarding Bangalore, where the plantation has been destroyed. Deforestation, because the carbon dioxide during the daytime, what will happen? Carbon dioxide will be taken by the plants and it will release the oxygen. Okay, so night time, that's why the people will do it in the reverse way. That's why the people don't encourage the human to go and what you call sleep near to the during the night, actually near to the plant, okay, or the trees. Okay, so deforestation disturbs this balance. Fossil fuel burning, deforestation disturbs the um, climate change. Okay, this carbon cycle is closely linked to the climate. More carbon dioxide, more warming. Please keep it in mind, the more carbon footprint, more warming. So nitrous oxide and carbon more methane, okay, or more hazardous, I mean, have contributed to more global warming when compared to the carbon dioxide itself. That's what we have seen in the last class. Okay, unequal solar radiation due to Earth curvature and tilt, sunlight is distributed unevenly. Okay, it's very clear. So in the equator, you will find a very warm, and the poles is very cold because it has been tilted the Earth curvature, and it has been tilted to 23 degrees Celsius that you have studied actually during your school days. Go and refer back to text. Okay, the equator gets more direct sunlight, poles receive oblique rays. This causes temperature gradient that drive atmospheric and ozonic circulation. We'll see what is ozonic circulation, the cold ozone and what they call warmer ozone circulation. This imbalances everything in motion, winds, currents, and even sound system. And continental and ozonic influence. Okay, the continents heat and cool faster due to low heat capacity, ozone's moderate temperature, absorbing and slowly releasing the heat. So, in ozone's moderate temperature, absorbing and slowly releasing the heat. Okay, so it will absorb the heat radiation and then it will slowly release the heat. Continental climate shows greater extremes, and maritime climate. What is maritime means? Whatever it has been related very close to the sea. Okay, maritime climates remain relatively mild and humid. So that's why the people the people prefer to live in the coastal region. Actually, I am from the coastal region. Okay, my native is a coastal region. But when you ask me to live very interior part of the thing, I find it very difficult because the climate is entirely different in the coastal region. Okay, even it is very hot during the daytime. Even evening, what will happen because of the ozone? I mean, because of the seashore will have a very good breeze at the evening time. That's why the people used to go to beach every day evening and things like that in my native. Okay, so the thing is that the maritime climate remains relatively mild and humid climate. Okay, this explains why cities inland have harsher and winter summers than coastal cities. Okay, why cities inland have a very harsher and winter summers than coastal cities. So when you say in Delhi, when you go for a winter season, it will be very cold. You will reach 8 degree, even 4 degrees Celsius. Okay, it is interior part is not very close to the coastal region. Delhi, the city, the capital of India. Okay, so just try to understand the things. Okay, so what are how the climate changes with respect to different regions, especially the continent, or what are the climate ozones or maritime climates? What are the things you should understand the climate prevailing in the geographical in the geography. Okay. Geographical region. What I mean is the region of different parts of the global globe. Okay, so the global wind belts like trade wind, westerlies, and monsoons form due to solar heating and earth rotation. So the wind, okay, the wind is very important, need to be considered. The global wind belts like trade wind, westerlies, and monsoons form due to solar heating, okay, and earth rotation. Because of the earth rotation and solar radiation, the monsoon form. Okay, so pressure difference caused by the temperature variation, the main responsible, the driving force is the temperature difference, high pressure and the low pressure. Okay, what is high pressure and dry and stable? High pressure, low pressure is a wet and stormy. This system regulates weather and climate across continents and ocean. Okay, obviously the air is getting heated up, it will go at the top. Okay, when it goes at the top, it will create a vacuum at the bottom. So we, in order to occupy that one, the air nearby the area will try to flow to the vacuum space, that is the low pressure region. So the wind blows. Okay, there you will find the air is moving on. Okay, so the pressure difference caused by temperature variation create high pressure and low pressure. Okay, the high pressure is a dry and stable, whereas low pressure is a wet and stormy. Okay, understood. Okay, so when coming to the ocean current, we are dividing in two parts. One is warm ocean current, another one is cold ocean current. We should understand what is warm ocean current. Ocean currents that carry water warmer than the surrounding water. Origin is usually originate near the equator and flow toward the poles. What is the effect of it? They rise the temperature of coastal region. They pass, making climate milder in winter. Okay, so the examples are Gulf Stream, North Atlantic Ocean, Croatia current, Northwest Pacific, Brazil current. Okay, the warm current definition goes like this: ozone current that carry water warmer than the surrounding water. Okay, that carry water warmer than the surrounding water. Understood that one. Coming to the cold ozone currents that carry water colder than the surrounding water. That means surrounding water is colder than the surrounding water. So it will originate in the polar region. It will originate in the polar region or temperature region and flow toward the equator. So the effect is they lower the temperature of coastal region. So since the ozone current that carry water colder than the surrounding water, so they carry colder water. Okay, so they lower the temperature of the coastal region, often creating dry desert-like condition by cooling the air and reducing the evaporation. Okay, so this is what the effect. And coming to this type of cold ocean current, where it is common, North Pacific Ocean, South Pacific and South Atlantic. Okay, coming to the ozone current, surface and deep ocean. Okay, warm current and cold current. So Gulf Stream example is Peru current that we just now have seen. Warm current warm nearby coast, cold current cool coastal areas. Okay, warm current warm nearby the coast. So it will heat up the things. Okay, so it will move from the which part to which part, from the equator to the what do you call it, polar region. You see here. So what is the direction? Okay, so the warm current and cold current near the equator originate near the equator. This is near the cold current near the polar. Direction is towards poles. Here the cold current towards the equator. Temperature effect warms coastal climate, cools coastal climate. Okay, cold current cools coastal climate. Easy to remember. So warm current will always warm the coastal climate. So warm the coastal climate means start from the equator to the polar region. Cool the climate means cool coastal climate from the polar to the equator. Okay, that you can understand. Gulf Stream and California current, Humboldt current. Okay, so you should know the difference between the warm current and cold current. Warm current carry the warmer carry what warmer warms coastal climate. Okay, so warm water. Okay, so it will carry the warm thing. Cold currents cool coastal areas carry the cold water, then the other thing. Okay, so that's why they have given here clearly, cold water carry water colder than the surrounding water. Okay, carry water colder than the surrounding water. Coming to the terrain and microclimates, so the altitude is very important. Temperature drops with height. For example, if you go to Ooty and Kodaikanal, obviously the pressure will be less because a lot of air will be, I mean, you will find air only through a certain height. After that, there won't be, become, you don't have any air molecules, right? When you go at the higher altitude, what will happen? The air package, okay, the concentration of air which is prevailing will be very loosely packed. So because of that, the temperature drops with height. Okay, so when you go at the top, the pressure will be lower. The pressure will be lower. Because of that, the when you boil the water at earth sea level, okay, the sea level is 100 degrees Celsius. But when you go to the coastal, I mean, higher altitude of 960 meters height or 1500 meters height altitude, obviously the water will try to boil at a very low temperature because of the pressure. Okay, because we have a less pressure. Slope direction: sun facing slopes are warmer. Urbanization, concrete slabs heat, okay, urban heat islands. Okay, so because of the urbanization, what happens, a lot of concretes has been made. Okay, that will heat up the things. Okay, it will absorb the heat and slowly it will release the heat, and during the night time you will find very warm. Okay, mountains block wind and create rain shadows. Okay, mountains block wind. So when the wind flows, actually it will block it and create a rain shadows. Okay, and create a rain shadows. So you need to understand because of the general what you call earth crust is not an even plane. Okay, you have higher altitude and urbanization is human made activity, slope direction is natural and mountains is also natural. Okay, so this all is responsible for the climate change. Okay, and wind flow for the, okay, that is the local features create distinct climates over short distance even within a city. Okay, so sometimes you might have seen actually some places it will be rainy, some places not rainy, right? Am I correct? Have you seen actually like that? When you travel on the road, you could able to see up to certain distance it will be rainy, and after that you don't find any drop of water on the road. Okay, so it's something like that. Local features create distinct climates over short distance even within a city. I've seen actually during my 6 years old or 7 years old, on one side of the road it was started to rain, and the other side is there is no rain. But it's very rare to see that type of thing. But traveling, you could be able to easily can watch the different parts because you are traveling for a longer distance. But on the same road where you are living, and opposite side is raining and this side is not raining, is very common, not common. Okay, not common to see. But this all is nature. Okay, local. This also the also nature, but it's also have a wind direction and wind flows and precipitation happens because of other factors into consideration. Okay, that you need to understand. Okay, why classify the climate? Understand climate diversity. Okay, so it's natural. Climate diversity is natural. Okay, because the earth has been tilted. Because of that, the some parts of the country is some parts of the land is very cold and some parts is very hot. If you go to Rajasthan or if you go to what you call Thar Desert or even to the what you call Rajasthan, you have Thar Desert, right? Yes, in the Saudi or even a desert like Dubai. Now they are making a and not a natural one. Okay, they make it into a even the desert also they just try to make it in a good manner. I mean, urbanization. Okay, even some countries like Singapore and Dubai, they just constructed houses even in the sea on the because they just dump the sand and things like that. Okay, so you might have seen a lot of videos regarding how the how they are going against the nature. Okay, so because they see land you can construct the building, but what people have been doing, they are trying to dump for because they want to show the power of the nation. Okay, I mean the wealth of the nation. They dump, they put the sand and then they try to construct on the shore of the seashore. Okay, on the seashore. Okay, challenges complexity and overlapping zones, climate classification, organizing the world complex patterns in understandable types. Continental versus maritime climates. So as I told you, maritime is whichever is connected to the ocean or the river. I mean, climate ocean. Okay, it's called maritime. I am related to logistics and also the ships and things like that. Okay, so the continental versus maritime climate, large seasonal variation you will find in continental, low humidity, extreme cold hot. Maritime, high humidity, moderate seasonal variation used for broad level classification. A simplest but useful first approach to understand the climate regions. And coming to the vegetation based classification, based on national vegetation growth, tropical rainforest, savanna, desert shrub, and tundra. What is savanna? Is a where very few trees have been found. A grassy plant in tropical and subtropical regions with a few trees. Okay, but even though in the subtropical region we will find a lot of trees. During my childhood, I inside each house they will have a what you call coconut tree, a minimum 5 to 10 or on the on what you call and the backyard of the houses. But it's not now common, very common. Okay, because of the cyclone or the people want to live in a congested space. I mean, they want to make it to live. They what do you call it? It's become a land property has increased, so they don't want to be, waste their property. They just cut the tree, and population is getting increased, and so on and so forth. Okay, but if you see my childhood, I mean 30 years back. Okay, the people will try to live comfortably and with a lot of plantations. Okay, they depend on the natural things, but they're not right, not right now. But now you could be able to see in a very rural area, not even villages, even sub-rural village became a town now. Okay, so just imagine very small villages, you could be able to see this type of large number of trees actually there, but not common in these city areas. Okay, that's what I would like to say. So what do you mean with tundra? Tundra is a biome characterized by extremely cold temperature, low precipitation, and unique type of vegetation adapted to this harsh condition. It is essentially treeless region. Okay, there is no tree. Okay, with a short growing season, typically found in the Arctic and on high mountains. Okay, low precipitation, that means no rainfall, extremely cold temperature. That if you go to the Russia and all, okay, you don't find what you call it, it's very cold and snow will be there. There will be won't be rainfall. Even the rainfall comes like a cold snow. Okay, unique type of vegetation. You could find only a particular type of stuffs will develop in the polar region. Okay, I mean in a very order warmer. Colder climate. Okay, vegetation adapted to this house condition. Polar bear. Okay, you don't find a polar bear in everywhere. Okay, only in the polar region you will find a polar bear, right? So it's something like that. The pinpoon. Okay, these all things will live only in that particular climate. It's a natural one. It's essentially a treeless region. You don't find a much tree there. Okay, and the shrubs which are growing will not grow in a normal region like tropical region. Okay, typically found in the Arctic and high mountains. That region is that area is called tundra. So natural vegetation, tropical rainforest, savanna. Now we are living in a tropical rainforest. Okay, savanna means it's a grassy plant. Okay, desert shrub. Okay, as I told you, desert. Okay, so plants are indicators of temperature and moisture levels. Okay, so the plants is growing means that means it indicator of this particular temperature and moisture level. So otherwise this plant will not grow. As I told you in the last class, if you see you want to grow a rose, the rose will grow only in the mountain region or the slope region. Okay, where it does not require much water and at the same time it does not require more sunlight. Okay, so otherwise if the plant and even if you have more water or sunlight, water, it will not grow. The rose will not cultivate. You could not able to cultivate the rose actually in a subtropical region. Especially it need to go for a very what you called yield station only. Okay, so what I mean the yield tropical region is the plain region. Okay, vegetation is a visible signature of the climate condition. And Köppen classification. So widely used system based on temperature, precipitation, seasonal patterns, five main groups: tropical, dry, warm temperature, cold, polar, ice. Okay, this Köppen classification based on five main groups. One is tropical, dry, warm temperature, cold, polar ice, subdivided further based on monthly values, easy to apply but focus more on outcomes. Okay, then causes. Okay, Thornton-Waite classification. So use potential evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration refers to the combined process of evaporation and transpiration. Evapotranspiration means is a combination of two words. One is evaporation and another one is transpiration that move water from the earth's surface into the atmosphere. Okay, so evaporation. And evaporation is a process where water changes from the liquid to gas and return to the atmosphere from surface like soil, water bodies and plant leaves. Transpiration is a process where water is absorbed by the plants, okay, and released into the atmosphere through their leaves. Transpiration. Okay, so evaporation takes place, okay, from sea ocean. When it is getting warm, heated up, it will go at the top. When it precipitated, transpiration is a process where water is absorbed by the plants, okay, and released into the atmosphere through their leaves. It's called evapotranspiration. Uses potential evapotranspiration, how much water plants could use if available. Considers water balance, precipitation, okay, more scientific but order to apply without data, ideal for agriculture and vegetation studies, though less popular globally. Other classifications are cost-based, Etner based on pressure, wind system and origin, air mass based Oliver consider dominant air masses, seven regions, equatorial, desert, continental, polar, etc. offers qualitative insight into the climate formation. This method try to explain why climates form, not just describe them. Okay, conclusion. So conclusion of today's lecture is that Earth climate is a dynamic, interconnected system. Okay, so it's not only dependent on one thing; it is interconnected, like how the engine has been interconnected with the different parts. Once everything is interconnected properly, then only the engine move. I mean, it work so that the vehicle move. Similarly, for a human to survive in this earth climate, in this atmosphere, we need to have depend on the interconnected system, and the earth climate is depend on a dynamic. We depend on the earth climate only human or living or any other creature on the planet is living. Okay, so earth climate is a dynamic interconnected system driven by solar energy, shaped by geography and physical processes. Classification helps understand diversity and predict changes. Ongoing research is vital due to uncertainties in climate behavior. As we face climate change, understanding these basics becomes increasingly important for all disciplines. Okay, so the climate change is a very important thing that we need to consider, and we need to mitigate the increase in temperature because of the human made activities. Okay, and then suppress these activities. At the same time, the urbanization or industrialization need to be developed, but still the environment need to be under sustainable condition. With this note, I just try to conclude my section. Hope you understood what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we will see in next class when we meet it on face-to-face section. Thank you very much.